Good evening and welcome to Foxborough's Conservation Commission meeting on August 23rd, 2021. We are having, in accordance with the Governor Baker's rules and regulations, we're having some Zoom and also in-person meeting tonight. With that, I'll open the meeting. Do we have any public comments? Hearing none. Do we have some minutes we can take care of real quick, like?
Don't look at me.
I need to look at somebody.
No, David was looking at me.
Okay,
Well, I haven't finished the June 14th one.
okay.
In the previous minutes, we're missing some of the minutes that weren't approved last time, because Jim was responsible for.
We're up to June, so June 14th and June 28th, and then all of July and
We
August.
approved all the ones that he
All the
did.
back ones are all done.
That looks suspicious.
Okay,
And I just got the June 28th minutes, so.
all right. We will wait a few minutes until 7:05. Is any of our members zooming in tonight that you know of, Diana?
Maybe Chris Gallagher?
Yeah,
No,
Chris
but
Gallagher
as
will be
any
later.
members?
Any members? No. Jim is at an in-person meeting in Mattapoisett, and I think Jeff's on vacation this week.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have to worry about that problem. As Mr. Garrett Spillane used to do once in a while, it being 7:05 p.m. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, August 23rd, 2021 at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, and/or via Zoom on a request for determination of applicability filed by Michael and Nancy Brown for the construction of an addition to a single-family home at 52 Beach Street, Assessors Map 027, Parcel 0011, in Foxborough within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office. Mr. Buckley, we're going to pass it off, huh?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name's Cameron Gray. I'm here tonight to discuss the request for determination of applicability for our project at 52 Beach Street. So 52 Beach Street is located on the western side of Beach Street and sits on the bank of the Neponset Reservoir. So this is a lot here on the board. You can see the reservoir in the back. So to give you a little better idea where it is, if you're coming down from the center of town down Mechanic Street and you take a left onto Beach Street, you'll go past Erosion Circle here, and it's about 1,200 feet past that, and 52 Beach Street will be on the left, right around this little bend. So 52 Beach Street contains an existing 3-bedroom single-family home, and we are proposing an addition located on the western side of the home. So you can see the addition right here in the black. So the addition will be about 535 square feet and will consist of an additional bedroom for the home. A portion of that addition will lie within the buffer zone to an inland bank. So we have the 100-foot buffer zone marked right here, and you can see it passes through the addition. So this addition will require minimal grading and will just blend into the existing grade here. So in all, we're talking about 330 square feet of buffer zone being altered due to this addition, and it'll sit about 79 feet from the banks of the Neponset, its closest point. It should be noted that the location for this addition has been previously disturbed as it's all existing lawn. So we believe a request for determination is appropriate, in this case due to the minimal work taking place within the buffer zone. Also, we updated this plan, and I believe we sent it to you guys. We're going to be relocating the existing propane tanks, which are here. It's kind of hard to see. But the gas company just came out, and these would be the new proposed locations for the propane tanks. They'll run right along the wood line here, up to the generator. Again, that's all existing lawn and previously disturbed. So the erosion control for this project will consist of a 12-inch silt sock laid along the existing wood line, which we can see here outlined in the dark. And that silt sock will remain in place until the site's been fully stabilized. And that concludes my presentation. I'd like to open up for any questions or comments.
Will the propane tanks be above ground or below grade?
They're above ground right now, so I'd assume the same.
Okay. Rich, any?
On the housing right now is, I mean, the stake that I saw for the addition
Yeah.
is right up against the wood. I assume you have to go about 10 feet beyond that for construction of work? Is that right? I mean, it's still all, I think, all disturbed.
We did not stake the addition, Rich. That was just, that's a traverse, it's just a surveyor stake.
Okay. Because this doesn't look as close to the woods as that did. The stake was right at the woods. So there's not, those stakes mean nothing.
No, yeah, so that's a traverse point we used when we were out there surveying. So we said right up against the woods,
Gotcha.
trying to keep it out of the way of everything.
That's it.
Rebecca? Hey.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Just one, just to keep it, I probably can't get it much more out of the buffer, but could that be shifted to the upside, the addition?
So it was actually originally proposed to be further up, but then we're starting to run into our sideline setback issue here. So we're only 15.7 off the property line. I believe it's a 15-foot setback.
Okay, all right. Just, David?
It's all sandy area here, so there's any silt problems is going to be minimal. Where you gonna store the fill, or you gonna take it off site?
I haven't made any thought to that, but I could do whatever the board feels necessary.
It will be taken off-site. We're not gonna regrade the yard. So
Okay.
anything taken out for that foundation is gonna be removed.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have to remove any trees at all in order to do this?
No, this is all existing lawn, so there's no trees there.
Jane, any final comments?
No, looked good to me, and I was happy to see that they had all sorts of native shrubs and such close to the water.
Good. Okay.
I get a A+.
Any comments from the audience? No? Somebody want to make a negative determination then?
I'll make a negative determination for 52 Beach Street, M027P011.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? I'll get the paperwork out to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Somebody tall enough to reach the clock.
I have, yeah. It hasn't changed? No. I have it then. Don't waste another one.
Okay, I just put that up there. Diana collect everything. At this time, we have I guess it's an informal discussion with Mr. Buckley on 119 Moore Street, a proposed 40B project.
No, it's here somewhere.
We don't have any, we don't own this side, we only own this side, right?
Let's see, where are we? And where's the project is going to be in here?
Yeah, this is the area.
Yeah.
We own up here.
Yeah.
But the Bleachery still owns this.
I'm not sure who owns that. Have to double check with Jane.
So, Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley, and I'm here representing Mr. Saig, who's the applicant. And I saw on your agenda that you were going to talk about this informally, so I thought that I would make myself available to answer any questions, or if you like, I can give you a 5-minute overview. I know Jane has already seen it when we briefed the professional staff on the same thing a couple of weeks ago. So whatever is your preference.
I think a brief overview would be helpful. I know I listened to most of the selectmen's meeting, but I did not get it finished, so.
Couldn't stay awake. So, all right, let me, I'm going to flip to this page right here, which is your first page after your cover sheet. What this is an aerial photograph of the property, which is 119 Moore Street. In the upper right-hand corner, if you were looking at, so Moore Street runs northeast to southwest, so in the upper right is toward Cocasset Street, and the lower left is toward Mansfield. And you can just catch the bleachery over there to the left. You can see the buildings, and then, of course, the famous trailers that are stuck in there. So this is the parcel. New mouse. So this is the parcel. It's about 6 acres, and it contains a single-family house right now, and it's locally known as Willow Grove. It was a Willow Grove nursery for many, many years, and maybe around 2000, I think in 2008, it was sold to Mr. Saig, and then in 2008, he had permitted, we came before this commission, was one of the permitting authorities. We had come in at that time, and we were going to build, or he was going to build contractor bays. So it was about 43,000 square feet of bays in 7 different buildings. And it's really not, it's kind of relevant for tonight, but I want to show it to you so you can see some idea of what was going to be there at that time. I don't know why I'm having such trouble finding things tonight. I can't find it. Let me delete this. I don't know. Here it is. So this is the rendering of it, actually, that was approved back then in 2007, 2008. You can kind of see the density of it, and the reason I want to show it to you is because you can get a feel for the density of the next one we're going to show you. So this is the 43,000 square feet, 7 buildings. We were going to keep the building itself, the existing single-family house, but then all around it was contractor base. So I'm going to stop share that and go back to where I was. If I can find that now. So as you can see, has the long driveway that comes in. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed it before you get to the Bleachery Pond. This is the Rumford River right here. It ends right at there's a bridge there, a small bridge, goes into the Bleachery Pond, goes underneath the Bleachery buildings, which I'm guessing Chris is here to talk about tonight, and then and then it goes back out underneath Moore Street into Mansfield. So that's what you see today. You can see it's surrounded on the left side here by the Bleachery. Up on the north and northwest, it's town conservation land, and actually, this is the northwest. This is conservation land, Bleachery Pond, and on the other side of the street, it's conservation land. So I was guessing, based on the Rumford River Greenbelt, based on Murray's Brook area, based on the Greep property, the Greenbelt goes from this point here, the railroad tracks, all the way behind Carmine Ave and hits 95. So it's about 400 acres. So I think that's important. I'll talk about that in a sec as part of the discussion that we had. So this is the next page. This is actually an existing conditions plan. It's from 2008, so it's changed a little bit. Let me just zoom in a little. You know, this pool is gone, the swing sets and stuff are gone. Some of these outbuildings are gone. Actually, I think all of them are. Maybe there's a garage still there. And, but the building is still there. And the driveway, this is the driveway, it's hard to pick out, that comes in over the river. So the site, of course, has wetlands. It has bordering vegetated wetlands along the edge of the pond in the Rumford River. It has bank down in this area here where the Rumford River starts. So a portion of the site lies within riverfront. A decent part of it falls within buffer zone. And this kind of bluish dashed line, no, that's not it. It's also in a floodplain. I'm not sure I have it, but it's really hard to pick out. So this is the FEMA flood zone. It lies partially in the FEMA flood zone as well, and you lose it down here. But up in this area here, it takes in a decent chunk of the property. So all of those things have to be taken into account when we do the design, and they were actually when we did it in 2008, and we will continue to do so in our existing design. So I'm going to go to...
Before we go too far, Bill.
Sure, go ahead.
Any conditions changed from 2008 up until 2021?
Other than we haven't had the wetlands reflagged yet. I don't think they're going to change that much, but we'll get them redone. That'll probably be the next thing we do. The floodplain hasn't changed. That area wasn't changed when they redid the maps, I think in July. And, but as I said, a lot of the outbuildings have changed, but most of those are outside the buffer zone anyways.
I was more concerned about any wetland
Wetlands.
changes.
Yeah, I don't think so. Stuff doesn't usually change that radically.
It's been quite a time.
Yeah, it's been 12 years, but there's no change. A lot of times that stuff changes when you stop messing with topography, soils, things like that. Nothing's really changed out here since then, but we'll get it flagged at that. That'll be our next step.
Okay, thank you.
In the blue line, what is the blue line?
That is the 25-foot no-touch zone.
Oh, okay, all right. It's not the riverfront.
So let me go to this next sheet. And I'm going to, that's the next page. So this next page is the architect's rendering of what he thinks the layout will be, and it will probably end up being fairly close to that. So that's the next sheet. Down in the lower right corner, you can see the legend. So there's 40 stacked flats, that's architect talk for, these are 4-unit buildings with 2 stories. So they have that. And then the duplexes are the lighter yellow ones along the lake. And you can see that there's 10 of those, and as well as the existing building, which is going to be a 2-unit as well. So there'll be 12 duplexes, 12 units, 6 buildings. And then the other ones will be, those will be 4-unit buildings, and there's 10 of them. So it's a total of 52 units on the site. And you can see how it's laid out. You come in from the Moore Street, over the bridge, same thing, pretty much the same location, the driveway as the original design and what's there today. And then you'll have a couple of duplexes on the left. You can see the landscape architect has tried to keep everything outside of the 25-foot no-touch. He's worked on that and will continue to work hard on that. This is a 40B. So we could ask for relief from that. Hopefully, we won't be asking for relief from that section. You know, we're not sure about things like basements yet. We haven't got into the grading. I'm guessing you're probably going to see here, some of them will have slabs, and then some of them will probably have basements as well. You can see the roadways, so it'll be looped through there. The site is going to be served by municipal water, excuse me, which will come in from conservation land, actually, because that's where it comes in now, the water line that crosses from Moore Street to Spring Street, and then there's a 6-inch line that comes in today from there, and it will have to be upgraded to at least an 8-inch line. So there'll be some activity out there. There are trails out there, as you guys know well, better than me, I think. And one of the things we talked to Jane about was we'd like to integrate this area. You know, we want it to be walkable, so we'd like to integrate it into the conservation land. You know, to be decided how that's done, you know, in conjunction and in discussion with the commission and with your professional staff on how that's done. I know there's definitely concerns about guys going in there with their motorbikes and four-wheelers, but we're not looking at something like that. I think it'd be more along the line of a path for people to go out and then hook into the any paths that are out there. I'm not even sure there are any, but at least that line that cuts cross-country from Spring to Morse would be one of them. If you go to the next page, this is again, a rendering he's done in order to give you a feel for what it would look like from a perspective, kind of looking from near the railroad tracks. So you can see the larger buildings in the back, and then those duplexes along the front, and the existing house would remain there. He has these, what they call pocket greens. He has them in the middle. You can kind of see that between the lake and the existing house. And then if you look behind the existing house, that's another pocket green, and it is one overway to the left and there's one overway to the right. And what they're trying to do is to create these little areas of green space, because these places are so close together. They want to create a common feel. And I have some pictures at the end here where we can show you that.
Bill,
Yes.
question. Buildings 7 through 10,
Yes.
is that in the floodplain area, which is very hard to distinguish?
Yes, probably, yeah, at least part of those will be in the floodplain. So what we'd have to do, what we did before on the other job, some of those units were in the floodplain as well. So what we had to do is work with that and build some compensatory storage. And in that particular case, what we did is down in this lower left corner, as you look at your plan, we did some compensatory storage down there in order to, anything we filled, we had to excavate. So that was how we handled that back then. And I'm sure that's probably how we're going to end up handling it here. We'll bring in as little as we possibly can while keeping it above the floodplain elevation. So we'll have to excavate as little as possible behind units probably 1 and 2.
How much of the within the 25-foot no disturb zone has already been disturbed? I've never been out there.
I think over to the right, as you're looking at the drawings, like between buildings 7, 8, or units 7, 8, 9, 10, I think that's disturbed. Of course, where the driveway crosses is disturbed. And that's about it. The rest of it is woods.
Bill, just for my knowledge, because I don't remember, I wasn't here for the previous permitting process, how does the 200-foot riverfront play into this? Like, where does that begin and end with the
Yeah.
other building? I noticed in the other drawing, the buildings didn't seem to be as close to the river as, say, Unit 10.
Yep. So if you go back to the sheet, go back to the first sheet I gave you, which is the existing condition plan, and let me zoom in on it to give you a better feel. So the definition, what happens with a river, when it hits a lake, it stops being a river, and it turns into a lake, I guess. Is it a lake? Pond? Whatever, some type body of water. So when we had this discussion back then, and Pear was our wetland person. So if you look at this right here, this is the 200-foot riverfront zone. So it about where it hits the bridge, that's where it starts turning into a pond. So this area here is the riverfront.
So behind the red line.
No, the red line's the property line.
I know.
I know it's hard to see. I don't know what my thing is not working. This is the riverfront. Here.
I see, okay.
Here, and then it goes off like that. So that's the area we have to not disturb, or disturb no more than 10% of it. As we're doing our construction. So
So basically, you got to draw a line somewhere and start and figure out where, like. okay.
yes.
That doesn't include the long skinny portion that functions like a river, does it? Or does it?
Which section, Jay?
Basically the inlet area, which is just below the bridge. It's similar to the area above the bridge.
Well, this is where, back in 2007, this is where the commission and we did the
Okay.
riverfront.
The Wetland Protection Act changed in 2014, so that might change. And they've learned a lot about where the rivers are since then. Back then, they really didn't know what was going on so much.
Okay, well, that'll be one of the things we deal with when we do the red line. We'll be talking to you guys about that.
Right.
So Jane, what you're referring to is from, say, Unit 10, that area behind that up to the bridge,
Yeah, yep.
is that riverfront?
I would call it riverfront because it flows and it has riverine characteristics.
Okay.
Also, Bill, could you talk a little bit about the water line that goes through conservation land and how wide you're proposing to, the work would have to be to get there?
So it's a 6-inch line. I don't really know what it is now. I mean, I haven't been out there in a long time. But it's a path, and there's a water line that comes in from the town's line into there. And we need to upgrade it to at least an 8-inch line. So we'll be taking that out, putting an 8-inch line in there. And then there's a question of how we're going to, the water department would like to see us loop it. So, that's a discussion. One of the suggestions was looping it down Moore Street. Another alternative might be looping it right next to the other one, so you'd have a loop. So how wide would that be? Well, it would probably be at least 10 feet wide. When you get away,
And
you have to get
what's
out.
over it right now? There's nothing over, there's no path there now or anything, is there?
Yeah, you can see where it is. You
Well,
can follow it.
Okay, the trail that goes in, the wide path that goes in between, as you said, Spring Street and Moore Street, this comes off of that, right?
Yes. Yep. And so if you
I
go out
don't remember a
there,
path being in there at all.
if you go out there, there's a hydrant.
Can you show us on the plan?
It's right here.
I didn't mention that too much when we were in the meeting because I prefer the water department's
See this right here?
option,
This-
and it wasn't my argument so much.
There's a hydrant right here. And this is the line that goes out through it.
So it goes through that wetland?
It doesn't go through it. I think it's right off the edge. And both of those wetlands are isolated wetlands that were not jurisdictional when we did it back.
They were
then.
not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that at all. Hopefully they're not that dirty word, vernal pool.
They're not what?
The dirty word vernal pool? Because it is priority habitat in there too, so.
It's priority habitat.
That might be
I
jumping
forgot to
through,
mention that, you're right.
you might have to jump through some loopholes to do that.
So we already did that. We already did the hoop. The hoop
That was
jumping
for the previous
for the
filing,
previous
though,
project, which was,
in 2008.
no, we just redid it recently because it was,
Right.
yeah, right, you got the form. So what Jane's talking about, this is, it has priority habitat. It's the same priority habitat that stretches all the way to Cohasset Street on the old River Ridge piece. And so what we've done recently, I think in the last year or two, I'm not sure, is we ran that through National Heritage. And what we did is we took the plan that we did, which you saw was pretty maxed out, and said, we want to do this. And they issued us I don't know what the correct term is. It's not an order of conditions. What's the term?
It's a notice of what you'd need to do to get a conservation and.
Conservation management permit.
management
That's what it's called,
permit, yeah.
right. It's issued a conservation management permit for it. So we have to go back and change that once we redo this design. But we thought, hey, if they're going to give it for that, they'll probably give it for this. So that's just another thing we have to deal with.
Yeah, they say in their 2018 findings letter for a 2008 project, they determined that the project must be conditioned in order to avoid a prohibited take of state-listed species and may require an additional filing pursuant to the MISA if there is a change to the project.
All right, so we will definitely be filing with them.
There's no water on Moore Street? No water mains there?
No, it stops about 500 feet that way. So there's the driveway, it stops probably 500 feet that way, and then it cuts across country,
Where's the single-family home that has a swimming pool?
right there.
Is that the end of the water line?
No, I don't know where he gets water. Do you know where he gets water?
From Foxborough.
Does he?
Yeah.
Does it come in the back?
No, it comes down there.
Yeah.
It does extend down to his house. At
What-
least the plans that we have.
What is it, just a service?
That I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So there is that other option that they tie into the roadway one, and that's what the water department was
Priority habitats.
wanting.
Oh, okay.
And here's the boundary line.
I think it's a better option
Oh,
from a
wow.
conservation standpoint
So
as well.
priority there, and, all right.
And this is the letter.
What else? So I can go, any more questions on this stuff, on this?
Just one quick question. I know we had quite a discussion on that bridge
Yep.
last time. How much work are you gonna have to upgrade that?
I've done that.
You've done it several times.
I've had two structural engineers look at that over the years, and the answer the same was it's fine. The last time, what they recommended was during the construction period, when all the heavy stuff is going across, they wanted to see some reinforcement. Maybe lay a steel mat or something over it. We'll do it again. We'll have to do it again. I'm sure it's gonna be a question and concern that's brought up, and we'll see. I mean, what has to be done, has to be done. But the last time, there was really nothing that had to be done.
Okay.
So with the increased traffic, this is gonna be a 2-lane bridge, so you can make it wider?
No, it's just gonna stay what it is. I don't even think it's 10 feet wide. Maybe 10 feet?
It was 15 feet wide.
Is it really that wide? Okay, it's wide.
It's about a 15-foot span too.
So, but we're not gonna widen it. That's not the plan.
Who takes care of the roadways? Is that part of these?
These are all driveways, so they won't be
They're all-
roads. Everything in here is private,
It's a condominium setup then, I assume?
yes. Some type of homeowners association.
I thought of this question while I was listening to the Board of Selectmen meeting coming to this, and it's a random question, I have no idea how they even do with this, but, so in the wintertime, when you're dealing with snow, right, there's a lot of salt goes down, snow removal gets pushed. In this type of situation, like, is there guidance, or is there like a preferred way to deal with, like, not dumping a lot of salt toward where runoff's gonna be, or that kind of stuff, or all the impervious? I mean, I have no idea, I'm just,
So one of the things that we have to do as part of pretty much every site plan, at least I would imagine that you're seeing, they have to have a snow removal plan. One of the things they have to do is you try not to dump it within the buffer zone. You don't dump it on, if you have a detention basin or a stormwater basin, you don't put it on that. You try and put it on grass areas, so as it, melts, that the grass acts as a filter. So those are the things we look at. When we try to do it, how it gets plowed. All I can say is, we do the plan,
Yeah.
town looks at it.
I mean,
What the guy does when he's out there on the snow, I have no idea. I just want to make sure he doesn't dump it into a basin and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's the type of stuff I get nervous about. But, yeah, what we would do, it's hard to see on this one. Let me show it on the back one. So right down here, over here on the right, this is all part of their property. So there's a lot of area there where you can push that way and push it off on those directions. And then when you start getting inside the site, now it gets more challenging.
Right.
Where are you going to put that?
right. It's a lot of impervious surface that gets introduced, so it's just going to be managed. That's what just made me think of it.
Yeah, and it's, it's like anything else we talk about here. The drainage is going to be an issue for me because there's no place to put anything. I like to put big open basins because they're easy to build, relatively inexpensive, easy to maintain. You're not going to be able to do that here. We're going to probably end up with underground infiltration under all those little pocket.
I thought I heard them say the DPW was talking about having storm basins tie into existing storm basins. Is that?
There's no storm base, there's nothing out there.
Okay.
Bill,
Yes.
based on the previous conversation, I guess, of the past project, there was some issues that were brought up that you would work upon with the commission
Yeah.
relative to the boundaries, the buffer. And it looks like they had something different for the bridge.
You want us to mark the corners and stuff?
Yeah,
That's easy.
and
That's fine. And when you get the opportunity to comment on the ZBA, if it gets to that point, you can just make that comment. Or you could just ask as a condition when we come before you and we'll say yes.
they also mentioned about a turtle management plan.
I don't know what that is, but Oxbow will have to deal with that.
Okay, but you had recent conversations with that group?
Natural heritage.
Natural Heritage?
Jane, was it 2018, Jane? Was the letter? So that
So
was,
you haven't done anything recently than that?
no.
Okay,
That's from the last project, too.
okay. I thought you made contact with them again recently,
Yeah,
so.
well, I was trying to remember, the years kind of go quickly, but I guess it was 2018, and we didn't have anything at that time. So we had to file something with them, so we filed that plan, because we looked at it and said, it's not gonna get more dense than that. And so that's what they looked at. We have to go back to them now and refile whatever plan finally comes out of this process, and see what they say there. And it'll be run in parallel, because you can't just throw it at them. They have to, and everybody's got to be in sync. You can't approve something and then have them say no, then we have to come back. So everything will run in parallel. The ZBA, you, them.
Yes, but you do remember that we can't issue an order until they've issued their letter.
Right.
You learned that, we learned that last time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Jane, actually, are we going to have any official say on this, or is it going straight to the ZBA?
No, because under the Wetlands Protection Act, they have to file. And
But the
I guess it's an
ZBA
accelerated
acts
permit. They would act under the
In our
bylaw.
stead.
Yeah, they wear the hats of the bylaw. So we would
Okay.
make requests of them under the bylaw, like, don't waive this, don't waive that, and, they can or can't, maybe they
Yeah.
will, maybe they won't.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
under the Wetlands Protection Act, they do need to file, and they do
Okay.
need to comply with all the Wetlands Protection Act requirements.
Okay, all right. As long as the ZBA enforces it.
Well, no. They have to file with the commission anyway,
Okay, all right,
but that's only under the state act, not under the bylaw.
okay, all right.
So, in other words, they can file a plan that shows all this construction of units in the buffer zone, and that could be allowed?
If they could prove it under the Wetlands Protection Act, if they can prove that they meet the riverfront requirements and all the other things, basically under the Wetlands Protection Act, you can fill up to 5,000 square feet if you replicate it somewhere else. They are also going to have to file under the MISA, the Mass Endangered Species Act, and get their findings, because it isn't a priority habitat.
Bill, do the units 1 through 6, are they out of the floodplain? Since I can't read where that line is.
Units 1 through 6, yes. The floodplain through that area kind of runs along the edge of the wetlands.
Okay.
It's only when we start getting down by 7, 8, 9, 10, that area there, maybe I as well. 7, 8, 9, 10, and I.
Okay,
And it's going to have sewer, is it? So it will be
Yes.
tying into the sewer line on the street there?
Yes.
So you'll be doing that kind of digging work. Where does the sewer line attach? Is it right at the end of the,
There's a manhole right
Driveway.
at the end of the driveway.
okay.
We
So
probably
it's-
going to horizontal drill under the river.
under the river? So will that be a pumped system, or will it be gravity pump? So you'll have some equipment for that somewhere?
What I want to use is a low-pressure source. Everybody has their own little, every building will have its own little pump, and it will go, it's only a 2-inch line. So you put it in a, maybe a 4-inch line underneath the river, if that's how we end up doing it, which I'm guessing is probably it. And so if the system dies, it will probably only die at, one building. So one building loses their pump or whatever, and then it won't be a pump station or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
one of our concerns in working with this is the drainage, not going to catch basins, but also it being so close to the river and the wetlands.
So we will, it's not gonna go, if I said that, I was wrong. It's not that it won't go to catch basins. The other system we had did go to catch basins. It was catch basins into that. I don't know what we're gonna use here. I mean, the stuff has come a long way in the last 12, 13 years. I mean, so we could use, tree box filters, stuff like that, bioretention areas, rain gardens. I'm sure we'll definitely be using underground infiltration for the roofs. So it'll be a bunch of different BMPs for the project, and it just depends on what we have to do. I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that when we get that MISA permit, they're going to require certain things for us to do. It's not in a real zone 2. It's not in a zone A, which is a surface water supply. So I don't think there's any special requirements under the DEP stormwater standards we have to deal with. I think the only ones would be special would be whatever they asked us to do for, is it turtles? I don't know what it is. I don't know what the species is. It's got to be turtles, right? Turtle management plan.
Yeah, that's what they said.
So all these roads and areas where the water's gonna be retained, especially in the buffer zones, is gonna be all privately managed?
Yes.
So the town doesn't have anything to do with it?
I don't think the town wants anything to do with it. But yes, it'll be privately managed. And truthfully, it's actually the best way to do it, because a homeowners association, they are they do what they're supposed to do.
Unless it's in Florida.
Unless it's in Florida. But I belong to a homeowners association in Florida, and they do what they're supposed to do, as demonstrated by my ridiculously high HOA fee. But the point is most of the time, if you look around here, the HOAs are doing what they do. They call me up and say, hey, I need a maintenance plan. Well, what's the maintenance for the pumps, for the septic? And so I think that's a good thing. Commercial development, not so much. Once they put it in, they just, for the most part, forget about it. Not to pick on the town, but except for the last few years since Chris has been here as the engineer, I don't think I ever saw a basin get maintained. So I think a HOA is a good thing.
I think also under the stormwater management plan, or the stormwater bylaw in town, if these things are supposed to be maintained privately, and they're not, the town can use that stormwater bylaw to make sure that they do get maintained the way they're supposed to. Just to reiterate, the stormwater bylaw in town, has a component to it that allows the town to enforce maintenance on these types of issues where they're privately maintained, supposed to be privately maintained. If they're not being maintained, the town does have a way in that bylaw to make sure they do get maintained.
So that would be reviewed under the zoning?
It'll be part of it too, yep.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't have a separate
No, I don't know
hearing under that.
that it is a separate bylaw, but we've caught, all of these requirements through all of the other means in town. So between planning board and conservation, all the others, the stormwater requirements are being met. We haven't had a single project, that hits an acre that isn't coming before conservation or planning or one of the other boards.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, though. Because this would be a friendly 40B, they would not be coming before the planning board. They'd only be coming before the zoning board and the
Right.
Conservation Commission.
So I'll have to look at the bylaw and see, and look at the friendly 40B process and see if it's something that just gets rolled into ZBA, or if there's another, process beyond that, but.
I'm assuming they'd still need to comply with the Massachusetts general permit requirements
Yeah,
for a stormwater management plan and such?
That's a federal, right? But you're right, you have to comply with the,
Okay.
you have to comply with the EPA general permit, and EPA general construction permit, right?
Okay,
We
so
have to
that
comply
probably
with
would
that.
cover it then.
And that's all wrapped, like Chris said, it's all wrapped together. And we have that local bylaw, and you're right, I'm not sure it was written that way, but even if it wasn't, we would file for that local permit through the ZBA. They would
The
be
bylaw portion of the
They would be the
stormwater permit, yeah,
permit granting
yeah.
authority. And the process is the same. Excuse me. So the ZBA, it kind of acts like you guys act in the planning board. They come in, they hire a consultant, the consultant does a review, they send it out to every board. You guys get to review it, and you make your comments back. Your comment is typically something like, they've already filed with us and reviewing it, but in this particular case, depending on how the design finally tunes out, you might say, hey, we'd like the 25-foot not to be breached in this area here, because maybe we've asked for that to be waived. Or if there is a vernal pool out there, we might say, well, we can't stay 100 feet away, and you might say to the ZBA, well, we would like you to not waive that requirement. So that's the only thing, but it's the same process. It's the consultants review it, everybody gets a look at it. We have meetings with the professional staff, comments come back, we make the changes, and it's really, it's the same process. And I know it's supposed to be streamlined and everything, but it's really not. It takes as long as it does otherwise. As long as it's reasonable people having reasonable discussions. Now, there are some towns, since I'm on TV, I'm not going to name them, I love to work in because they're so unreasonable. And 40Bs are fun in those towns because, But in Foxborough, it's not like that. Everybody gets treated fairly and with dignity, so it really doesn't take any less or longer.
Any other comments on?
So this is the building. I just flipped to it. I know if you're interested in taking a look at that, but this is what the floor plans are. You can see they're, for Foxborough, they're pretty small. So their lower units are 1,500 square feet. The upper units are 1,700 square feet. This is for the four-unit building. This is what it looks like in the front. This is the cottages. So these are the duplexes. These are 2 stories. They look like townhouses. These are bigger, so they're about 2,000 square feet, which in Foxborough is small for new construction. 3 bedrooms. I think they're all 3 bedrooms. So that's the look for them, and this is what the duplexes actually look like now. This is over here to the left, this is the existing building, and the architect is gonna try and match it. That's his take, is that building right there. He wants to match things so that it blends in with that. To the right, this is one of his projects done in Concord. It's not gonna be the same because you can see these are all 1-story buildings and the ones surrounding ours are 2 stories, but this is the look he's trying to get. So those pocket green areas I was talking about, this is what he'd like it to see. And then that's about it. That's just outside of the building. So is there anything else? I mean, this is just a really blow through, just so when it comes back to you formally, or when it comes before you through the ZBA, you'll at least have a feel for it. And then in the meanwhile, we'll be having meetings with Jane and.
Okay, the site walk with the selectmen is on the 30th, is that correct?
I don't know.
I think it is. Let me look.
It's next week sometime, I know, because I'm not here. So,
Monday at
It's the
6.
30th at 6,
Yeah.
at 6
PM?
PM. So wear your bug hats.
Mike will be there, and the landscape architect, who's really good, he'll be there to go over, answer questions, do a walk.
Bill, what about the water line work? Is that gonna be a separate filing because it's not part of the 40B?
That'll be part of it.
It will be part of it?
Yeah, anything to do with any infrastructure improvements. I don't see us doing any road work, but if there's any road work to be done and things like that, anything to do with, as a condition of this permit, will be part of it.
I would recommend and push the water from not being put through the conservation land. I just have a very bad feeling about that,
Well,
since you have the
it's
other
going,
option.
it's going to go through conservation land because so there's a line there now, and we have to replace that line.
That line could loop, though, if you connected at the street.
That's
That could be
that's
the loop.
right. But we're still going through conservation.
That's what the water department would like.
Right.
I don't see it going through conservation land.
Well, maybe we're talking past each other. That line is getting replaced. It's, whether,
You were going to put a second one beside it, you said.
right, that's right. That's my idea. I don't know if that's going to fly or not.
And the
but-
water department prefers that it go out on the street instead of cutting through the old, the existing line, and then they could also get a loop out of that.
Well, it's looped either way. It's a loop either way. It's,
Right.
doesn't,
But it seems like if they would like that, and I certainly wouldn't want them, any more work going on in that conservation area myself. I mean, I'm not a voting member.
I
Where
understand.
does that line come from, Bill?
So there's I don't know what it is. Is it a 12-inch line, 10-inch line? It's a 10-inch line that goes from Moore Street to Spring Street. So as you're driving down toward the site,
Yeah,
I just
okay.
closed it.
Yeah.
So as you're driving down toward the site, before you get to Vandenberg's, and I think there's another house next to it, but look to your right, and you'll see this little section of fence
Yeah.
that's there, and it's supposedly,
They did that, they relined it a couple a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that's where all the ATV issues are, down that particular line.
Yeah.
That was built, put in basically for Mason Place, wasn't it? When I was looking back at the old information.
I didn't do Mason Place, I don't know. I don't know when they did it.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
If you'll,
oh, there you go.
Whoa.
so this is the site that Bill's been talking about. This is that existing six-inch service that goes out to that easement that runs between Morse all the way over to Spring Street this way.
Okay.
That's ATV Central.
So what Jane's talking about is this is an existing 6-inch line. It's an AC pipe. Bill's talking about replacing this with an 8-inch. Anytime we connect hydrants to a water main, the water main's supposed to be 8-inch in diameter. That's the standard. When all this pipe was getting put in the ground 50, 70 years ago, 6-inch lines were, what was put in. So that's what they were running fire hydrants off of. Out here on Moore Street, we have a 10-inch main that runs down to that easement. It then downsizes to an 8-inch main, does extend down to the driveway of number 109, and
Okay.
then stops there.
Oh, that's good.
So, the distance from this driveway at 109 to the driveway at 119 is about 230 feet, and then we'll be bringing it back up to the bridge and getting it across the bridge one way or the other. It's another probably 270 feet. It's probably 500 feet in total length to do that pipe work. So we've run hydraulic models. The loop system, anytime we have a new development coming in, the loop system is preferred. Water quality purposes is the main thing.
What is the loop system?
So instead of having one service from the easement, this one dead-end service, it's a dead-end line.
Yeah,
A loop
water
system would
gets
have it come
stagnant.
in from the easement, whether it's existing, let me X this out. It would run through the development and then would go back out to Moore Street. So water quality, the water moves through the property. You don't have stagnant water.
It's always flowing. Okay, got
If you have a break on this service, you shut a gate, you still have water flowing in from the other side.
Gotcha.
So we've done that with as many of the projects recently since I've been here as we can.
And that line that goes to the stem of the T, that's 6 inches all the way to the top of the T, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
so
so
you
that
have to
goes,
go-
that ties in here on
And
that
that's an
10-inch
8-inch line
line.
going across from Morse to Spring Street?
This is a 10-inch service,
10-inch.
10-inch main here.
Thanks for explaining that.
Johnny on the spot. Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, that's perfect.
that's good.
Thank you.
So you can see that there's going to be that line is going to be upgraded. That's as a minimum. We're going to do that.
Okay. Going back to does anyone want to walk the site with the selectmen?
Yeah, I've got it on my schedule.
I
Okay.
added it to mine.
Okay. Diana, could you post that, please, for us?
And it's definitely going to be Mosquitoville, I would think. So wear your mosquito hats.
Just walk by me, they love me. I'm like Bordeaux to mosquitoes.
They don't like me much, though. They don't bother me much, but I still wear a mosquito hat if it gets bad.
Oh.
So, Chris, just so I'm correct, that line's got to be changed, the 6 inches is going to be changed no matter what. Is that what you're telling us?
The conversation and the comments we've put out is that that existing 6-inch service is not sufficient for the property, because there are gonna be a couple hydrants on the site. So connecting that internal piping to that project off of that 6-inch main isn't sufficient. There's an 8-inch main out on Moore Street. We've put it on the table that it should be looped, so we should have an 8-inch line going out to Moore Street through the bridge and connecting up to number 109. It's still being discussed as to, does that 6-inch line then need to be upgraded at the same time? We've had some hydraulic models run to see what the pressures do, what the flow does doing that, what size those lines could be in order to increase fire flow to that property, which you know, the fire department, water department, and, you know, the project engineers will have to get together with as far as what that fire flow number needs to be, gallons per minute, you know, and the duration. Typically, they'll do a fire flow on a hydrant somewhere nearby to see what the flow rate actually is, you know, on site, because the hydraulic model is great, it's good, but until you open the hydrant, you just never know.
Reality is different.
Could they just line that one as well, instead of replacing it? They'd line it like you did the other one, that was the 10-inch?
It could be lined, and that gives you
That would
a pipe,
strengthen it
a
and
new
everything,
pipe
right?
within a pipe.
Yeah, yeah.
So for, you know, durability, that would certainly be a good thing.
And that can go just, it loops through somehow, doesn't it? It does, you don't need to alter the land on top?
No, you cut a section, you cut a hole on one end, you cut a hole on the other end, and.
Which is what you just did at the Morse
Yeah, that
Street
was
one,
5
right?
or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty
You have a
impressive.
limit, though, of how much, or do you,
They could pull that length.
okay.
What is the distance of that pipe? Do you know? That 6-inch one?
Approximately
the property?
500 feet.
So I was gonna
About
say,
500 feet, huh? Yeah, it's a long distance through conservation land.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, that service would get upgraded to for fire flow purposes, would get upgraded to a 10-inch line.
It would anyway, huh?
And then connecting out to the 8-inch line on Moore Street would be the best scenario.
Not in a priority habitat, I wouldn't think.
Make them go underground and tunnel,
If they could.
not 500 feet.
What's that?
I say 500 feet,
That would go right up like this.
yeah,
This is priorities,
that's priority, yeah.
between them, but there's
Right
still
in between them, yeah.
isolated.
Since there's another alternative that I just don't see it being an option, really.
Oh, Bill, before you leave, you're saying that we also own on the westerly side of Morse, that Leetry Pond?
yep. Yes, you do.
Yeah,
When that law was created, that was all one parcel, and the pond was conveyed out to the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought we just owned the other side.
No,
no, we own that side too. It goes around that piece of property at 130 Morse.
Okay.
So the town owns that green-looking peninsula out in the pond on your page 2, according to your red line?
yep. Yep, that shows as dry land there, but it's, at the time that the conveyance was done, it wasn't. So I don't know when this photo was taken.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that either, David.
But you don't, it doesn't show that on your 3rd page.
Well, this page here, the Union Studio page is, yeah. See, that piece down there that looks like dry land? I don't think it's dry land. It just happened to be dry at the time that was taken.
It's a
Just
field.
depends on when the aerial photo was
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's usually a field in there.
July.
But it flooded in 2010.
It's flooded a lot of times.
It used to flood a lot. They picked it up a couple of feet and put that culvert in years ago.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Buckley? Comment?
Nope.
All right,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything, Jane, before we go into executive session?
I really wanted to talk about the Beaver management plan, but if that could be done after executive session, I don't want it to go away because we are having issues right now that are pretty urgent.
Okay, I think I'd like to go into executive session.
Come
They
back out
come
and discuss it.
No, I just soon. It's typically, when you go into executive session, you come out then you adjourn. So, if you can discuss it real quick now, beaver management.
I guess, yeah. I've sent you all the information about it.
Yep.
We've got a couple of problems. One is in the state forest, and Tom Ashton, the state forest manager, and actually
Thanks,
Rich
Bill.
and David and
Yeah.
I went out there. It was you two, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And what's happening is the town owns the dam for Wolf Meadow, and the beavers are thinking that's a swell place to build their dam. It's raising the water levels, so the state forests, one of the state forest's main road that runs along the other side of that pond is being flooded, and it was not in perfect shape to start with. So Tom Ashton actually, he was looking into what he could do to help out and fix the problem on his site. They can't really go through it now, it's turned into a mud pit, and so that's one of their major emergency roads apparently. They can't install a pond leveler, which works out really well on conservation land. So basically, I don't really know where to turn and how to go about doing these things. They are, they're having issues, but it's conservation land, so it's for wildlife and wildlife management, and they really are keystone species and do some really interesting work, those beavers, but it's making life a little complicated for them. And then there was another place that the Board of Health agent told me is having some intermittent issues apparently with beavers. I went out there, it's at the Cranberry Bog Pond, that's just
Behind
above
Bass
the
Pro.
cranberry bogs behind Bass Pro.
Yeah.
And I went out there today, and because I know beaver sign, and I went out there and it was hard to find. There really was not very much evidence at all. I only found a couple sticks that had been removed from the downside of the spillway that goes down into the cranberry bogs. And then one tree had been chewed on, so it almost looked like they were just coming up and checking out things and went back down again. But the
Where do you
cranberry,
think they're going from there?
from there,
Yeah.
they travel up and downstream. That's pretty much the headwaters of
Yeah.
that area. Whether they are damming downstream or not, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I've heard that they were in the Ponset Reservoir, so that's a possibility. And then
Okay.
sometimes what they'll do is they'll travel up and downstream to get food and such. But the Cranberry Bog Association would like to get an emergency permit from the Board of Health, which basically you trap them and they don't just take them off into the farm and let them go. They kill them humanely.
Oh.
They shoot them, I think. And it would be a shame if that were the case, because this is a perfect place to install they're called a pond leveler. And basically the beavers, when they hear the water rushing, they want to build up their dam more. Well, when you put a pond leveler in, you put it where you want the water to be, so the water will never go above that. And then there's a cage farther out into the water that the beavers can't say, oh, I'm going to plug that up, because they are pretty crafty. They don't realize it's there. And so they keep building their dam, but it doesn't matter, because it's not going to get any higher than the property owner decides they want it to be.
Okay.
And in this case here, I got some pictures, actually. Why don't you pass them down? You can take this one too. It shows the location. That's the most pressing, well, not really, if you talk to Tom Ashton. That's a big problem for him at the state forest because of the roadway. But, for example, in that particular spot, well, I put together a beaver management procedure, process, plan type of thing for the town. We have them in Holliston, where I live. When I was the agent in Holliston, the beavers were driving the Board of Selectmen crazy because they were damming places that they shouldn't, which beavers do. Framingham, for example, has a like no beaver zone type of thing. And then in Billerica, this Beaver management company, which basically takes care, they're the policymakers for the whole state. They're the only ones that were installing these these pond levelers and such. They worked with Billerica, and over several years found that it actually cost taxpayers less to have, I think they had 43 different pond levelers in the town, in areas where the beavers basically could co-mingle with the community or whatever. And it cost less than if they were to trap them over and over and over and euthanize them. And they are rodents. They do breathe quickly, and you get rid of one, and it's just like a fish hole. They come back up. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, and according to that Billerica study, which has numbers and the whole bit, comparison, it was written up in the AMWS, the Association of Massachusetts Wetlands Scientists. You know, it's got the facts behind it, so. I guess what I'm saying is, if there's any way we could manage to say to Tom Ashton, we can put one of these in up at West Street, the Wolf Meadow, Wolf Meadow Dam in the conservation area, and then encourage the Board of Health to say no to the beaver management request, because there really was not much evidence, and they certainly would be able to be managed easily with one of these things. And then look at the policy and maybe talk about it next time, because I recommended it back in 2016. They're coming this way.
Yeah.
What they do is they head on up the rivers, the main rivers.
Didn't we see down off of Lake Miramichi, down in that, where the hunting club is?
Yes, that was the first place where they were
Okay,
in town.
all right,
So that's the wading river, so they're making their way up.
okay.
And, you know, Foxborough is one of the last towns probably to get them, because they're the upper watershed of three watersheds.
Yeah,
But they're coming.
all right.
And they are keystone species. It's interesting, I have them in my backyard, because I am also in an upper watershed area. I had a stream, and they came and they dammed an area at a pinch point. I've got an old cranberry bog flowage myself. And they dammed up that area, so now I've got a pond behind my house, and it's changed the habitat incredibly. I've got a lot of dead trees in this beaver pond, which has brought in all of the nest, the cavity nesting birds, and pileated woodpeckers. And I even have bobcats that come back there, because they love swamps, and all sorts of creatures have come through. This morning I had a couple of otters out there, and a deer, and it's really interesting.
So, all right,
So the issue on Wolf Meadow, though, is that one of the roads, Rich and I and Jane went out there with Tom, one of their roads that goes along the northeasterly side, I would say, of the meadow, which is a fairly long road. But it's the lower one versus the one that's up the hill further that is rougher and, you know, rockier.
yeah,
It's getting deeper because the more you have vehicles, especially their own vehicles, but other people.
utilize it.
Yeah, it keeps just washing up and then washing in, and it's getting deeper. So we did discuss, are there ways that he could go in there and do something in bordering vegetated wetland that probably wasn't, but it's within the 100 foot, definitely
Yeah.
within 25 foot. Because the water has increased over it. Now we got, you know, part of it's like laying in the water. I mean, when we were driving through there, you actually could see the water.
It's worse. He's actually gotten stuck in there. It's like
Yeah.
a Zazu pit now.
So he was wondering, he'd like to work with us.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he just didn't know exactly what can he do, because of the area is over 5,000 feet, I would say.
Yeah.
And it would cost $2,500 or so to install one of those
Okay,
devices. Whether we can use it from our
Is that it?
conservation land management, which basically goes towards lane property, or maybe the DPW could fund something like that. Maybe we could get in
Already taking
cahoots.
care of all the dams.
Well, you need to work, we need to work in cooperation with you guys too, because that causes you a lot of headaches as well.
Yeah.
You can wash
Maybe
all
this-
roadways and stuff.
Maybe Tom Ashton can kick in some, since he's got to do something to deal with.
Well,
It would make sense, but I think that it's a liability issue if they were to do work on our property, the conservation land property or
That part's
something.
not our property, that's part of the state forest. Our property is the meadow.
The dam is where it would need to go, and the dam is on town
Our
property, yeah.
But the meadow is our property, and the road that we drove in is state forest.
Right, the state forest, I think that's pretty much where the boundary is.
Yeah, it's right along,
Well, no, I think I think it's pretty much where the dam is, isn't it? Do we own the meadow? I don't know if we do.
I don't know.
I don't recall.
Anyways, he thought of laying, like trapped stone in the ruts.
Yeah,
Well, he's
Just
gonna have to
enough.
rebuild that anyways, David. He's gonna have to rebuild that somehow anyways.
Right.
It's a road maintenance thing, and it's gonna be a horror show, because it's just turned to mud now. But the bottom line is, if we could manage the level of the water, so, with a pond leveler, so that it stayed lower.
yeah.
But it's like a catch-22, because it's affecting their property, but it's on town property, and honestly, I don't really know how to go with that sort of thing.
I think we have to work with the state.
Oh,
I mean, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
But if the state can't put it in because it's on town property, who pays for
Well,
it?
okay. If we gave them permission to put it in, if they can afford it,
Memorandum of understanding, maybe?
yep,
I would go for that.
yeah,
I'd have to talk to probably Bill Keegan or something
Yeah.
about that, or town
Sure.
council maybe. But you think that that would be a good avenue to go?
yes, absolutely.
And in the meantime, okay, I can do that for that. And in the meantime, maybe let the Board of Health know that you would recommend and encourage the use of
The pond
pond
levelers.
leveler at the Bass Pro Cranberry area, because it sounds to me like it's gonna be a continuous problem that would cost more than if they simply
Yeah.
put that in and maintained it. And then they can put up a little sign saying, isn't this wonderful, see, this is why we're doing this, because
But
they have
the-
all sorts of signs along that trail.
Yeah.
There's lots of trees for the beavers to eat in the area back there. I walked that yesterday, yeah, there's plenty of fun stuff for them to chew on.
And it's hard to find any evidence, it's really minimal. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're taking up residence, but if they're not, they will soon.
Yes.
Because they
that would
take
be-
nibbles first before
Yeah.
they come up and say they want to stay.
Okay, so that would be a good, two places that we could use them. I mean, that's private property there, they own that, right?
Yes, but if they were encouraged to do that
To do-
instead of trapping and killing the beavers.
Yep.
So we have to
Who's-
convince the Board of Health.
Now, is that,
They want to work with us, you know,
is
they,
that a Kraft or is Bass Pro on that?
Ocean spray, right?
it's the cranberry, did I give you the information, or do I still have it?
You may have passed it down the line.
It's the cranberry bog people.
Are they actually
here it
having
is.
an issue, or is it just getting,
No, that's not it. I'm
just
sorry.
seeing signs? Okay.
It's basically the Cranberry Grower Service, Inc.
Yeah.
And they're from Wareham. They're hired as contractors to manage the bog property behind Bass Pro
Oh, so-
shops.
But they're the manager.
They're the
but
manager, so
but
maybe
they're-
Bass Pro.
Probably Kraft still owns that.
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
wonder.
doubt that Kraft still owns it. You wouldn't say
Yeah.
none of that.
They had sent something saying they manage it. They request a temporary off-season permit to allow trapping of beavers on this property that has become a nuisance for our agricultural operation.
Yeah,
They've noticed increased beaver activity at their water control structure.
yeah, okay.
And there was not a lot of evidence, but they could be pulling it out.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's find out, respond to them and ask them who owns the property. And if so, we could approach the Kraft organization.
I think since they manage it, I think they have been the ones to request this
Okay, but we
permit.
could- Yeah, but we could still go to the ownership.
Okay. But basically, the policy I put in there said you keep track of where they are, what the problems are, and then you have different tiers.
Yep.
One, the bottom one being no tolerance whatsoever, and the top one being,
Yeah.
do this, and the middle part being maybe one of each, a little of each.
Yeah. So you could notify them and tell them that our recommendation would be the pond leveler
And then talk to Bill Keegan about memorandum of understanding
Standing
type of
with-
thing
Yep,
with the state
with
forest.
state forest. Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good solution in both places. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, Chris, is that dam or Wolf Meadow Pond?
It's not
On your list?
jurisdictional, no.
No.
It's not.
It's
Not that
probably-
high. He
it's
says,
not high
thank goodness.
priority dam.
I don't want it to be.
Yeah. Okay, anything else then?
I want you to re-sign the proposed land donation form because I changed some of the some of the wording on it. And I want to give you a heads up that we need to discuss encroachments onto conservation land, but not right now.
Okay. So if you guys.
So you did sign that before, I just tweaked it a little bit, and so if you could sign it again and sign 2 copies, just to make life a little easier, that should be good enough. If not, the intent.
Try again.
The intent is there, we'll rewrite it and you can sign it again. And I need to get out there for a site visit before it goes to the, in front of the Board of Selectmen on the 31st. So I'm wondering if I could park at your house and walk along the highway?
Yeah?
Can you do that?
No, there's a chain link fence. You have
Well,
to,
could you walk on the inside of the chain link fence?
well, it's all be on all private property if you do.
Oh, okay, never mind. I guess I'll have to go through the woods and wing it. But if anyone would like to join me, I'd love to have company.
Yeah, but
I joined you, it's right in my backyard practically.
Oh, okay.
I live right near.
I would say basically, Peter, if you go down to where David Feldman, where David Feldman lived, go into that
I've
area.
gone back there.
Okay,
It's totally overgrown with poison ivy, and I haven't been back there in years, but, I mean, it's
Okay.
passable.
yeah. But I
think-
would say that's the area to get into from
I
there.
know some other people that live along further up County Drive, some families that would be happy to let us cut through their yard if I
Yeah,
said.
The only
okay.
problem with that is that there's a wetland between here and there, because that whole area it should be wet, and I think that if we were to go in and we would walk up, if we walked up the watershed,
I'll get us there. Go
yeah,
ahead. I've been back there.
okay, without me or with me?
Oh, no, with
wanna
you.
do
Oh,
it?
yeah, no, I'm saying I can get us to that spot.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
okay.
Okay.
All right, good. So sometime in the next week,
Okay.
or this week.
Okay, when,
It would need to be this week because it's next Tuesday,
okay,
I
all
think.
right. Okay, this week I'm not available, but next week I'm starting to get available, so. All right,
Maybe next Monday?
is that it then?
Yeah,
But next
Okay.
Monday, we have the site walk for,
Yes.
that's in the evening.
it is.
Mondays are great. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, okay.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And I need a roll call.
Aye. Rich?
Rebecca?
Hi, Rebecca.
Peter?
Pete says aye.
David?
David says aye.
Okay, and Bob says hi. We are in executive session. All right, thank you. I have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beck.